First of all, I want to start by saying I truly appreciate you guys coming. Um, I know you have a choice, and I sincerely appreciate that you chose this talk about innovation. My name is Mike Harris. I'm the VP of Information Technology for a company called Ecommerce Inc. We're a mid-sized web hosting company. We operate under the brands IX Web Hosting and Host Excellence. We have around 115,000 shared accounts, 150,000 unique customers. So fairly sizable, about 200 employees across 3 locations, one in the US and 2 abroad. I wanted to provide my contact information right up front. If you find this talk useful and you want to implement an innovation initiative of your own, or you want any feedback, or you need any questions answered, I'd be happy to help you going forward. Okay, so what's this talk about? Well, my main goals for this talk are to help inspire business improvement through innovation. I think innovation is a powerful tool if used properly, and I see that many companies aren't able to do that or leverage that opportunity. Let me ask you a question. How many of you guys feel like, or how many of you would consider your company as having a culture of innovation or being an innovative company? A few? Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the, I've worked for several companies over my career, and in most cases, one of the things that companies struggle with is being innovative. Innovation is often a differentiator between, okay and good and great. And companies are always looking for a way to separate themselves from the pack. And often they think innovation is the way to do it. So my goals for this talk are to help you to inspire business improvement through the use of innovation in your own companies. Over the years, I've developed a methodology for implementing and executing innovation in different companies. I've been working on this methodology for, I'd say, the past 5 to 7 years, and I've implemented it across a few different companies, large companies like Check Free Corporation, and mid-sized companies like Ecommerce. So today I'm going to introduce that methodology to you and give you kind of a pragmatic approach to being able to implement it in your own company. I'm also going to share an example of one of the innovation initiatives that we did at Ecommerce Inc. I've included that in the presentation so that if you want to take that back and use that as a template, it'll be available to you. So, most presentations we have to start off with a definition. So what is innovation? Well, innovation is introducing something new ideas, new methods, new devices. I think that's a decent definition, and it's simple, but I really like this quote from Peter Drucker a lot better. Innovation is the specific instrument of entrepreneurship, the act that endows resources with a new capacity to create wealth. This is exactly what I've modeled our innovation initiative after. Through innovation, we want to foster the ideas of entrepreneurship. We want to empower our employees to act as entrepreneurs. And through that empowerment, they're going to reach levels that they never thought possible. They're going to have influence in the company that they never thought they could have. And ultimately, they're going to help create wealth for both themselves and the company. Does that make sense? So a lot of times when you talk about innovation, people tend to think that great ideas kind of are happened upon by happenstance or are stumbled upon or happen by accident. And I don't believe in that at all. I think that real innovation is very deliberate. It's very consistent and methodical, that you can repeat the process of innovation and give yourself an opportunity to be innovative in a successful way over and over again. And that's what the methodology that I've created does. The most successful companies have learned how to do this in a repeatable fashion. And I think, to be competitive, particularly in the hosting industry that's highly saturated, you have to be innovative. You have to be able to separate yourself from your peers. When I was doing the research for this talk, I came across this article from Fast Company, and I thought it was pretty interesting. These are, some of the most innovative companies of 2012. And if you look at the list, one of the first things you notice is that these are kind of, top of mind companies. They're some of the most recognizable brands in the industries, and they're in their respective industries. They're also all trending upward. They're all moving in the right direction, and they're making lots and lots of money. I think this list helps to solidify the fact that innovation is critical to business success. So I started thinking about, why do we innovate? Why does innovation matter? Well, innovation is often the difference between okay and great, or good and great. A culture of innovation leads to engaged, passionate, and motivated employees. When you engage your employees and give them an opportunity to innovate on your behalf, it's almost like magic. You'll see that your teams are now empowered. They now care just as much as you do as a leader, or as you do as an owner of the company. It's really impressive. Another big thing is that a culture of innovation denounces complacency. So often, particularly with companies that have some success, we tend to get complacent. We tend to be okay with the status quo. What we've done so far has been successful, so why do we need to continue to innovate? Why do we need to continue to improve? And to me, that's a death sentence. I think that we have to constantly be looking to denounce complacency. Finally, I can guarantee you that innovation will positively affect your bottom line, whether it be through new revenue or improved operational effectiveness. So if you saw the chart 2 slides ago, Apple was number 1. And I think a lot of us would recognize Apple as a powerhouse in the industry. And I thought that it was pretty interesting. Steve Jobs had put out several quotes on innovation, but these were 2 that I found really relevant and interesting to this talk. The first one is that, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower, and I really do believe that. I think that it takes good innovation to be a leader and remain a leader. And then the second one was particularly interesting because, we're a smallish, to mid-sized company, and what Jobs is saying in the second one is that it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how big your R&D department is, or how much money you have to invest. It's really about your people, your intellectual capital, your resources, your leaders, and how you allow them to work on your behalf, how you empower them. I think that's what he means by how much you get it. So, how do most companies go about innovating? Companies that I've been around often try to pay for this. They try and bring in firms, think tanks, marketing firms to help them come up with new ideas. Another thing they do is rely on leadership. How many of you have seen this where, it's kind of the smartest guy in the room theory, where you're reliant upon some leader, some manager, the owner, the CEO to make all the right decisions? I think that that's flawed. I think that it's too difficult for anyone to consistently innovate on their own and make all the right decisions. Or, another thing that often happens is that we just go with our gut. How many of you know what a WAG is? Wild ass guess. We were doing that all the time. You want to try something new, you just throw a WAG out there of what you think will happen and you go try it. Sometimes that works, but often it doesn't. So we needed a better way to innovate. We needed cost-effective solutions, in particular because, again, we're a small to mid-sized company. We wanted fresh ideas. We needed to differentiate ourselves in the shared hosting market. We wanted to create opportunity and excitement within the organization. This was as important as anything. It's really getting your company engaged in what you're doing, having them care about the company as if it were their own. We needed a sustainable organic solution. We couldn't afford, frankly, to bring in big consulting firms to help us think. We needed to be able to organically innovate. And lastly, like all of us, we wanted to win. I mean, we want to keep improving. We want to have continuous improvement. We want to do well. We want to continue to innovate. So I introduced this idea of the innovation initiative at Ecommerce. My primary goals when introducing it were to, number one, create a culture of innovation and continuous improvement. I wanted every employee to feel like they could make a difference, that they could innovate, and they could be a part of moving our company forward, no matter what position they had in the company. And I'll show you in a bit how you can do that. I wanted to focus the company's best and brightest talent on our most challenging business problems and new opportunities. All of us as companies have lots of business problems and lots of new opportunities we'd like to explore. We just don't know how to get started. We don't have all the ideas and all the concepts that we need to move forward. Using this approach, I wanted to focus our staff on being able to do that, give them the power to do that. Finally, frankly, we were looking for ways to increase revenue and reduce costs. That's so important in a saturated market, is to be able to be operationally efficient and also find new streams of revenue. So we looked at this initiative as an opportunity to help us do that. So how do we structure the innovation initiative? Basically, what we did is we brought together small cross-functional teams, 4 to 8 team members to a team. Each team would be given a specific challenge, some business problem or some business opportunity that we wanted to figure out how to solve. The teams would then operate in an entrepreneurial think tank type environment. It's kind of like if you think of, lock a team in the room, shut the door, and slide pizza under the door until they figure it out. That's kind of the approach we wanted to take. We really wanted to have the team have full autonomy to solve problems. Oh, one other point there was that, and this is very important, I don't want to pass over it, is that in order to make this successful, in order to have this innovation initiative work, you really do need to provide your teams full autonomy to make decisions. You can't come in with preconceived notions, but you also need to provide them with resource support. Often it takes money to try things, to experiment, to prototype. And one of the things we had to do was provide these teams with full resource support within reason. I mean, obviously, we don't have super deep pockets, and as most of you probably don't either. So how did we form our innovation teams? What we did is we selected the best and brightest from each of our departments. So this included IT, marketing, sales, operations, CR, and we basically put them into a pool of being eligible for innovation. We let our leaders and our managers in the respective departments figure out who the best candidates were, because we really looked at this as a privilege. Getting to participate in the innovation initiative was a privilege. It was an opportunity to make a difference, an opportunity to step outside of your day job in order to really contribute to the company. So we wanted to make sure that we were rewarding the people that deserve those rewards within the company. Another thing we did is as we were forming the team, we would purposely mix it up. So let's say, for example, we formed a team around domains, and I can talk to you a bit more about that later, and about how to improve our domain sales, improve our domain ARPU, and those type of things. And oftentimes people might think, well, let's put all of our domain experts on this team because that's their wheelhouse, and let's let them go at it. I've found in my experience that's not the best approach. What you want to do is, it's okay to put an expert or two on the team, but you really do want to mix it up with, experts and newbies, because you really need those fresh perspectives. In order to truly be innovative, you need different perspectives. You need different ideas. You need to think outside the box. And if all you do is worry about domains, a lot of times it's hard to get outside of that mindset and be innovative. So by having this mix, the members were able to play off of each other and really come up with some neat ideas. The other thing that was important is don't declare a leader. These are truly autonomous teams. So I like to think of them as their own small companies, focused around some particular problem. So what we do is, we put the team together, and we don't declare a leader. We don't put a manager on the team. We don't say, you're the leader of the team. We let the team figure it out for themselves, almost like Survivor or something like that. The leader will kind of bubble up to the top. The other thing that we did that was really important is that we celebrated the privilege of being selected. This was a privilege to be a part of this initiative on our team. People that got to participate in this got opportunities that they never had before within the company and would have never had without this opportunity. So we really made a big deal out of it and made the people that got selected feel special. I think that was important for them to have that sense of buy-in about, hey, I can really make a difference. The company believes in me, they're counting on me, and therefore I can do this. Another thing that we do with the Innovation Initiative is we form what's called an advisory board. So the previous slide talked about building the team. Now we talk about building an advisory board. So what the advisory board does is they're basically made up of senior leadership that act as consultants to the innovation team. They act as a sounding board. They're there to support and challenge, but not to lead or restrict. And this is a really critical point because oftentimes leaders they already have kind of an idea in mind. They know where they want something to go. And if you truly want to have your team be innovative, you can't have the answer in mind before they start. So you're really there to just support and challenge. The other thing the AV does is create accountability. We would have our innovation teams check in with the AV board on a frequent basis so that we can make sure that they were progressing as needed. So what were the principles of the innovation team? The first one throws a lot of people off. The primary goal of an innovation team is to either prove success or fail fast. Either one is a win. So failure in this case is actually a win because you might think, well, how can that be? Well, if we fail fast, we've prevented ourselves from investing lots and lots of money into an idea that was never going to succeed in the first place. So by this small team with a small investment being able to tell us, hey, this is a bad idea, don't go there, we're ultimately able to save lots and lots of money. Another very important principle for the innovation team is to leave your day job at the door. The members of this team, it didn't matter whether you were a manager, whether you were an architect, whether you were the head of marketing. When you're on this team, you were just a member of the team. You would fill your role on the team depending on what the team needed, not based on what your title was within the company. We ask you to wear many hats. So on the innovation team, you're going to build a business plan for whatever the problem is you're trying to solve. And in doing that, I'm in technology, but on the team, I may have to actually write a marketing plan or write a sales plan. We really wanted to challenge our team to think outside the box and be creative, and then ultimately leverage the advisory board. The advisory board is there for experience and as a sounding board, so leverage them to bounce ideas off of. So I know this one's hard to read. So what we told our team members in the process was that for the innovation team, you self-organize. I'm not going to tell you how to operate. I'm not going to give you a project plan. I'm not going to tell you how long something's going to take. It's up to you to assess the problem and self-organize. We wanted them to meet in person whenever possible. As I said, we wanted to kind of use that concept of lock yourselves in a room and really focus on the problem. Being a small company, we really couldn't afford to allow these team members to focus 100% of their time because they did still have to do their day job. But what we said is give us at least half your time in a week focused on whatever your innovation team is focused on. We wanted them to publicize progress. This was important because, again, it helped keep the excitement going in the company about what the innovation team was working on, as well as to hold the team accountable to producing something on a weekly basis or a frequent basis. It was up to the team to act completely autonomously, meaning if they didn't know something, it was their responsibility to seek out subject matter experts as needed. And then the last point there was really important. One thing that we stressed to the team was to plan for small, frequent wins. So a lot of times when you look at an innovation type question, it can seem like a daunting task. But what we said is instead, break that daunting task down into small chunks. And as you move through those small pieces, they often snowball into a bigger win. So what was this team responsible for producing? There was basically two things, either a proof for success or a proof for failure. Now, a proof for success meant a project proposal, a business case, a marketing plan, a sales plan, maybe working prototypes depending on what it was, and design mocks. A proof for failure was basically just proving why this was a bad idea or a bad investment and why it wouldn't work. And then when I say possible alternatives, what I mean is maybe if you tweak the problem a bit, it could be solved. But the way the problem is stated, I can prove to you that it won't work. So either of these outcomes is what we were looking for. At the end of the innovation process, what the team would do was basically present their business case to senior leadership. We would take the business cases and we would weigh them against each other and other competing opportunities, and if they were approved, we would move it to what we called the factory. So why that's important is that the innovation team wasn't responsible for actually implementing or building the end product. What they were responsible for doing was building the business case, kind of a foolproof business case, including sales plan, marketing plan, prototypes, proving anything that was in question in terms of how it would work. But once we had all that, we could move it over to our actual development teams and get it into the factory and get it built. The other thing that we tried to do is we wanted to make sure that the members of the innovation team got to continue to work on the project even through the factory. So, you could say that the end of innovation was when you presented your business case, but we felt like that would be kind of anticlimactic. We wanted the team to continue on as subject matter experts to help see the projects through to completion. Does that make sense? Okay, so one of the things we did when we launched this initiative is we really made a big deal about marketing the initiative. This was something that was foreign to the company. The company had no idea what an innovation initiative was, why we were doing it, and we really wanted to build excitement around it. We wanted people to be excited to participate. We wanted people to really give us their best when being on a team. So what we did is we really put a whole marketing plan together around introducing the innovation initiative. We did this through email teasers, things like, the innovation initiative is coming, can you help? Those type of things. We created posters, we created team t-shirts. On our invitations to the actual participants, we did handwritten invitations from our CEO, inviting them to participate and telling them how important their role would be on this team. These were some of the posters that we created, kind of hung around the office to get people excited about what we were doing. I've also included a timeline here of kind of how the process works. I don't expect you to read it here, it's more for reference, but the big points here are to really take time to plan out what your questions are, what your problem statements are that you need your innovation teams to solve. That can take as much as weeks to months, depending on how many problems you have and what types of things you want to hand over to an innovation team. The other thing is to provide as much background data as possible to those teams. The more of a head start you can give them with facts, the better off they're going to be and the less time they're going to waste. So advice and lessons learned from the innovation initiative that we did. Number one, you want to limit the number of innovation teams that you run concurrently. The reason I say this is that, our CEO, he's very entrepreneurial, and when he likes an idea, he wants to, do it in spades. He wants to he wanted us to launch 10 innovation initiatives at once, because he was like, wow, we can really use our whole staff to think like I do and help generate revenue and all this. Well, let's do that across the board. Well, the reality is, as a company, you can't afford to do that. We couldn't afford to have 10 innovation initiatives running at once, because we still have to run the company. Another big lesson that we learned is you need to include someone with project management skills on the team. We had a couple innovation teams that were kind of floundering. They had their problem, and they were just kind of moving in circles because they didn't have anyone that knew how to manage and lead. No one stepped up, so to speak. And what we ended up having to do there was introduce another member of the team later that had those skills to get the projects kind of back on track. The other thing is, you need to truly empower your employees. And what we found is that by doing that, it paid back over and over again. The employees were excited. They loved coming to work. They loved participating. They loved making a difference. And it carried forward even after their innovation teams were done. They looked at the company in a different way. They looked at the company as one that cared about their opinion and cared about what they had to offer. And really, I think it created this culture of just everyone wanting to do more and make a difference in the company. As I said earlier, you want to provide as much background material as possible when starting one of these initiatives. It just helps the team get going. And then finally, make sure that your problem statements are SMART. Who knows what SMART goals are? Yeah, it's specific, measurable, attainable, yada, yada. It's important, though, because you have to give the innovation team an opportunity to be successful. It has to be something that's attainable. If not, it could have the opposite effect and kind of be demoralizing. More lessons learned. Truly challenge and stretch your team members. This is an opportunity for stars to rise, and we saw that. People that we didn't think had it in them, so to speak, or didn't think had the capacity to do the great things that they did, stepped up and really shocked us. So, you definitely want to push your team and challenge them. Don't put any boundaries or box them in. Another thing is that the team's success is largely dictated by the individuals on the team. If the individuals aren't bought in, it's not going to happen. Another thing you have to think about is as you launch these innovation initiatives, you need to plan for an increased workload for those that aren't participating, because while the innovation team is spending 50% of their time or 100% of their time innovating, someone has to pick up their responsibilities. And we found that it definitely created an increased workload on those that weren't involved in the initiative. And we had to look at ways of motivating them and helping them to see the importance of their roles as well, even though they weren't participating in innovation. Finally, it's really important to reward success. When you reward kind of the behaviors and the successes that you want to achieve, it also has kind of a snowball effect. The very first team that came out of innovation, we took them out to dinner with our advisory board, and we bought them all iPads, and it was just a huge buzz around the office that, not only did I get to participate in this thing that allowed me to make a difference in the company, and in most cases, honestly, they said they really didn't need any reward, but then on top of that, they got rewarded for their efforts through, money and prizes and things like that. And then along the way, we also gave pat on the backs, obviously, and gift cards and things like that, just to keep the momentum moving forward. So our results. We've completed 5 innovation initiatives to date. We did one around domains, we did one around cloud hosting, we did one around information gathering about our customers. That's the one I've actually shared with you in here. One around site builders, and one around internal communication within the company. From the domain innovation initiative, we realized a sustained gain of more than 30K per month in the very first month, or within 3 months of the initiative. Now, I will say that this is a little bit unusual because I said earlier that the innovation initiative's goal is to build a business case, not necessarily implement something in production. But in this case, the team had the skills and recognized what we call low-hanging fruits, or opportunities that were there with just minor tweaks to our existing operations. We could realize this type of revenue gain, and that's what they did. So, that really paid off immediately and has continued to pay off consistently since then. The other thing we did is we created a new customer control panel focused on usability and user insight. So that's the actual plan that I have included in here for you guys. The whole idea was about understanding our customer, being able to understand their needs, being able to understand how they use our products, so that through that understanding we could continue to create products that worked for them, products that were helpful to them, and products that frankly they would be willing to buy. So 2 of the innovation initiatives are in the factory, and we have 3 more proven winners queued up for the factory. The other thing that's important about that is, as a technology leader, having a fully thought out business case, marketing plan, sales plan, prototypes, that really helps me to plan the future, figure out what type of resources I need to implement these innovation projects, plan out how many of those resources, when I can deliver them, all of those types of things. So, before I show you an example, does anyone have any questions?
I was curious, you talk about when to fail, if it's the timeline or if it's reported with some measurement, or how the product work, or deciding when to fail, too late, too early, how we decide if everything else is reported on, how is it treated equally compared to the innovation project?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the question is, what's the right time to fail, or to report that this is a bad idea? Generally, it's as early as possible, because the earlier you can definitively decide that, the more money you're going to save, right? Because even these innovation initiatives cost money to run. But it's really up to the team and the inside of the advisory board. The team gets to bounce those thoughts off the advisory board, and if you can come to an agreement across the groups, then failure is actually a win there, because we're saving lots of money. So I don't know that it's ever too early or too late, because in innovation, you're really limiting your resources that you're putting towards the initiative, rather than, I don't know how many of you have been on projects where you spent $500,000 or $1 million on something that was bound to fail. It never even saw the light of day. That's what we're trying to avoid, right? So through this small innovation team, this small business, if you will, anytime that they come to the realization that failure is the only option is the right time, because it's going to save us from a further investment.
So you think almost waiting till you know it's going to fail, as opposed to checking in weekly or monthly, or some sort of reporting tool?
It's really about confidence, level of confidence. So when you can prove to yourself that it is in fact going to fail without a shadow of a doubt, then that's when you kind of throw up the flag. Until then, I think you're constantly trying to find workarounds and tweaks and other ideas for solving the problem. Make sense? Other questions?
How many employees in your company? You mentioned 3 locations.
Yeah, around 200.
For your company, what was the optimal number of simultaneous initiatives that you had going?
I would say 1 or 2. I mean, what we did was not what I believe is optimal, and we learned from that. We actually launched basically 5 within a 2-month period. And the reason that was problematic was because of the strain that it put on the rest of the organization. So the innovation teams working on their own could handle it fine, right? Because they're each focused on a dedicated problem. But the rest of the company couldn't handle it. The subject matter experts that needed to provide support to these teams, the leadership that needed to be the sounding boards for these teams, the folks that weren't in innovation that needed to pick up the slack for the people on the innovation team, they couldn't handle it. So. And again, as I said, that's really more about the excitement of our CEO, really liking the idea of wanting to do as much of it as possible. And we've learned since that, in future innovation initiatives that we do with the company, we'll just do 1 or 2 at a time. And that's what I've done in the past, actually. When we were at CheckFree, we did, I think, 2. And that was fine. CheckFree was a much larger company and could sustain, that impact much easier. Other questions? Okay, I'll just show you a quick example. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I really put this in here just as a reference for you guys if you want to try and implement something like this in your own company. So we basically created a themed innovation initiative for each of our teams. This is some of the stuff that was in the presentation, but really I wanted to challenge kind of the heartstrings of our employees in terms of why do you work, right? Why do you come to work? And most people come to work to make a difference. They want to be a part of something bigger than them. They want to be challenged. And through this, I was able to build a lot of excitement with the members. We created kind of logos for each of our innovation teams. So this one was about expanding customer insight. We had a play on words with our IX company logo. So I'm not going to, this is stuff we've already talked about. Some of the talks I've heard today already, and you'll probably hear throughout the week, are focused on ARPU and raising ARPU, raising the average revenue per user. That's something that we're very much focused on as well, and that's really one of the big things that was driving the innovation initiatives within our company. We wanted to look at ways to generate more revenue from our existing customer base. So for us, we felt like every day that we failed to act, we were leaving money on the table because at our company, we really, prior to these initiatives, hadn't done a good job of cross-selling, upselling products at all. This is, again, about where I told you it was really important to me to bring to light how important these team members were to us as a company, and that it was really a special opportunity for them to get to participate in this initiative. Okay, so this was an example of one of the problem statements. So I thought this might be interesting for you guys. So one of the things we wanted to do is we have these personas within our company that basically model who we believe our customers are. But we needed some quantitative data to support those personas. So one of our challenging problems was, as I think most of you probably have similar problems, is truly understanding who your customers are. Truly understanding who they are, what they need, and being able to stay in touch with that over time. So this initiative was about gathering that intelligence about our customers with some specific and measurable goals along the way, and then being able to maintain that going forward. So we wanted to be able to have a certain set of information about our customer, about 80% of our customers, and have a strategy, and this is really where kind of the innovative side comes, is first of all, how do you get all that information from your customers within a 12-month period? And then secondarily, how do you maintain it going forward, which is often even a harder problem to solve. Questions about that? So then the other thing we did is, like I said, really challenge your team, and so we added a bonus goal in as well. So we said 80% to try and keep things realistic, but any business or business owner wants to understand 100% of their customers. So we had a bonus goal there to get us over that last 20% hump. The other thing you can see here are some of the key questions. These were kind of like seeds or feeders for the team to get them started thinking about some of the things that we had been thinking about, but frankly couldn't solve or didn't have the time to solve. I've blanked out some of the metrics here, but we tried to provide as much factual data as we could to the team that, based on the numbers that we had at that time. And then just gave some background about some of the work that we had done already. As I told you, we had developed personas to try and understand our customer. We have like a Carrie Confused persona and a Bob Business persona and things like that. And they're kind of sometimes comical, but they represent larger bodies of customers. We had kind of validated the personas through the eye test, but we really didn't have quantifiable data to support it, so that's part of what we wanted to achieve from this. We had also done some customer value scoring. I don't know if any of you guys have done that, tried to figure out what a customer is worth to you through the revenue they generate, through the renewals that they do, through the tickets and support incidents that they generate, truly understanding the net value. We had done some surveys like everybody else, but surveys, you get limited results, I think, with surveys. We started to build some profiling capabilities into our ordering process, but not nearly what we needed. And we were a strong believer of the voice of the customer, but we didn't have a good means to really hear that voice. This is just more background information for the team about how important every interaction is. So every interaction you have with a customer, you're making an impression, and that can be a good or bad impression. And this was here to make sure that while we needed to collect intelligence about our customers, we needed to do it in a tactful and tasteful way. We didn't want to alienate our customers through trying to gather too much or the wrong kind of information. And then here's just kind of some next steps. One of the things we created was a project proposal template for the team, so they kind of knew what their business case document needed to look like at the end and could then figure out how to get there basically as a team, as well as some other data points and things like that. And that was pretty much it. So, any other questions? Yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, how would you do this type of initiative at a smaller company where you maybe can't afford 4 to 8 people? I would even, 2 to 3 people is fine as well, or even 2 people is fine. It's more about empowerment and determination, I guess. So you're taking a problem that you don't know how to solve, or an opportunity that you haven't figured out how to capitalize on, and you're making that the focus, the sole focus of individuals within your company. And what's really interesting about it, though, is it doesn't matter what their role is within the company. It doesn't matter whether they're a phone rep or whether they're the marketing VP. It's really more about getting time to focus, getting the resources you need, getting the time to focus, and getting a framework within which to work to kind of continuously drive you forward. So even at a small company, I know this can work. I've done it at a startup as well, a company called Best Transport, and we had pretty good success with it. I mean, we kept smaller teams, like you said, maybe 2 to 3 people, and we just ran one at a time. But it works. Other questions?
I'm in the hosting business now, and I came from craft,
Mm-hmm.
food research, marketing research, and before they released anything, whether it was improving the product, anything, the test panels, that was the lot. You had to do test panel after test panel. When do you say, okay, the light's green, what's going to move?
Ultimately, the way we do it is with the advisory board, right? So the advisory board, which is made up of a panel of senior leaders within the company, including the CEO, the innovation team is really pitching their idea. Think of them as a small company trying to get investment. I mean, that's exactly the way that we pitch it to them. They're a small company trying to get investment. So you need to do the due diligence necessary to get us to invest in your idea. So they would basically bring their business case to the table, and we would hear them out. We would ask questions. This wasn't a 1-hour thing. This was, over days and sometimes weeks, because it's a trial and error process. Just like a small, a startup company trying to get funding, you pitch your case and you learn from your mistakes. You learn where you got knocked down, and you get back up, and you come back and you try again. The same thing happened with these teams. So, they came to the table and they were lacking information in a certain area, or we didn't feel that they had proven thoroughly enough success. I mean, it's really about, when you come out of innovation, you truly have a proven winner. It's one that not only are you telling me it's going to win, you've shown me exactly how it's going to win and why it's going to win. And, as long as the team believes in that 100% and they're able to articulate it to management and leadership, whom have the dollars to invest, that's basically how we went forward. So it was the team's responsibility to do these test panels exactly like you're talking about. So we would build prototypes and do usability studies and that type of thing. And that's part of the diligence or due diligence necessary to gain your investment. So it's really that philosophy. It's really the philosophy of kind of creating startups within your company, or creating entrepreneurships within your company and giving them the opportunity to earn investment from the company. It's a win-win. team members gain a lot of knowledge and really get to be a part of something special and get to see it through and know that they did something for the company, and the company wins. You're generally, the reason you do this is to make money or save money. Other questions?
I arrived a little late, I'm not sure, but you showed at one point, you said that your data survey was not that useful initially. Were you able to get better data from surveys, or the surveys not really ever to do it after?
Surveys are definitely one piece of the equation. It's a bit of kind of an art, I think. Number one, getting an appropriate response rate on surveys is challenging. Number two, asking the right questions is even more challenging. And a lot of times you only get one chance. I mean, if you mess it up, you're not going to get a second. You're not going to get the same person to fill out a survey again. So it's something that we definitely have learned from and evolved over time. But that's almost a whole talk in and of itself, is how to do a good survey. And in our case, it's really only a small piece of what we're trying to do. Through our new management control panel that's currently in beta, we've basically built into the application these query points for our customers. So we've built like quizzes, something we call quizzes, where we're testing the customer's knowledge about different hosting categories. What's a domain, what's HTTP stand for, things like that. And through the fun of the quiz, gaining insight into things we want to know. We also have surveys built into the application that are context sensitive and context aware based on what you're doing and what you've tried to do, as well as pop-up surveys that are more like one or two questions, and lots of other things like that we've kind of integrated right into our application. Absolutely. That's a good question. So what do you do if you have multiple concurrent projects competing against each other and you have fixed resources? How do you pick your winners? It's just like any investment house or any investor. You're going to pick the ones that appear to be the most profitable to you. And the nice thing about it is that even if you've gotten through innovation, I mean, you've won, basically. So even if we don't fund it immediately, it's still sitting there with the ability to be funded when the resources become available. Because clearly, just like we can only afford to do so many concurrently, we can only afford to fund so many concurrently as well, and had to prioritize which ones we funded first. So the only challenge there is opportunity cost. If something has an opportunity cost associated with it or was time sensitive, then you have to weigh that into your prioritization for funding as well. Other questions?